Good job. Good job. Now we got a question? Say it up loud so everybody can hear it. I mean, how can you not be energized? I mean, the questions they asked today. I mean, they were so on point. You know, I have a loose script in my head. I always allow for the kids to kind of drive the engagement, the activity. So, but I always have kind of a loose script in my head, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, then we'll say, then I'll do this, then say we might move this in. But these kids came and they just from go, they took over with the questions. I mean, really, you saw that really super smart question, really great observations, you know, really engaged, really invested. So what we're here today to talk to you about is a little something, a little someone, a man named Dave the Potter. Now, have you guys have seen this book before? Because you were here when Brian came through before, right? Yeah. So you know, you guys got a chance to meet one of the creators of this book. There are two parts of every book, right? There's the words. The words in this book are written by a man named Laban Carrick Hill. Those are the words, all right? He's the author. The pictures are by a man, your good friend, Mr. Brian Collier. And actually, I'm being remiss in my duties. He told me to tell you guys, hey, when I told him I was coming, he's like, what? He's kind of jealous. He's kind of jealous. I got him today. But the pictures are by Brian Collier. The illustrations are by Brian Collier, all right? So what, you guys remember, what was Dave? The title of the book is Dave the Potter, artist, poet, slave. What's a potter? What's a potter? A person who makes pottery. Exactly. Now, what is pottery? Yes. Correct. Pottery, we make a lot of pots, we make bowls, we make dishes, we make things. Y'all doing real good. We're going all the way back to the beginning, to the essence. What is pottery made out of? Someone who hasn't had a chance. Clay. I'm going to take it back even further than that. What is clay made out of? It's you know what? Wax. Not wax, but you're close. You're not wax, but it comes from the earth. What do we do? What? Iron can be in clay, actually. Iron can be in clay, yes.
Well, there's a type of sand called clay.
Ah, we said sand. Very good. Clay is, how many people here have ever made a mud pie? Raise your hands. I know everybody in here made a mud pie. How many people here have ever eaten a mud pie? I'm the only person who ate. Thank you. Thank you. I know some of y'all ate mud pies. That's what clay is. Clay comes from the earth. It's the very essence. We're walking on it. We're built on it. That's what clay is. It comes from the earth, from dirt and sand, not sand so much, water, all this mixed together. The process, we make clay. We take that clay, we make pots. We make art. We call it ceramics. We call the person who makes it a ceramicist. We call them a potter. And we're here to talk about today and to celebrate one of our potters, a very accomplished potter, a very important potter, a man named Dave the Potter. Now, yes? You think I kind of look like him? Anybody else think I kind of look like him? Because Dave's a good-looking man. Don't you think that's a good-looking man? Is that a good-looking man? How about that? You think? You know, my mother thinks he looks really, really good. My mother, I don't know why. But you know what? I'm going to tell you why he's first such a good-looking man and why I kind of look like him. We actually jumped a little bit ahead, but this is good. Because, say it again. Because it is me. Now, Dave was born, we're going to ask Mr. George to come in here. Mr. George does a lot of things. We're going to get to talk about it in a minute. But we're going to ask him some very specific questions right now because we're on a track. Mr. George knows a lot about Dave. A lot about Dave. Mr. George, when was Dave born?
Dave was born about 1801.
1801. I got any mathematicians in here? Anybody can do the math? Now, it is 2013. Dave was born in 1801. 2013 minus 1801. What? 200. We're close. We're almost there.
300.
Not 300. I heard somebody say it. 212 years ago. 212 years ago, Dave was born. Now, do you think 212 years ago, they took a baby picture of Dave? You think somebody just pull out their iPhone and like, hey, I'm gonna take a picture of my baby. Hey, I'm gonna put him on Twitter. Hey, did you see my baby on Facebook? You think that happened? No. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. So nobody we know knows what Dave looked like. Yes, we had a question? Exactly. iPhones weren't invented. We didn't have cameras. We didn't have a lot of the things that we take for granted right now. So it's easy for us. You probably have pictures of your mom and your dad. If you're lucky, your grandma, your grandpa, if you're lucky. But we don't have any pictures of Dave. So far as we know, nobody knows exactly what he looked like. Yes, ma'am. Is that you? This is me. And we're about to get to why this is me. So hold on. So if we didn't know, when when Brian got the gig to illustrate this book, to make the pictures, hold on, don't let me forget. I don't want your arm to get tired, so you can put your arm down, but don't let me forget. I'll get back to you, okay? All right? So when Brian got the gig to illustrate this book, he didn't know what Dave looked like either. He had the same problem that you're having right now. He didn't know what Dave looked like. Had no idea. Well, let me take that back. He knew he was a man. He knew he was a man. He knew he was a black man. An African-American man. Outside of that, didn't really know a lot. He knew that physically, he knew attributes about him, knew that he made, when he was born, knew that he makes pots and all these different things. So when Brian got this gig, Brian and I had actually met years before at a storytelling festival. One of the things I get to do is I get to tell stories. So when Brian got this gig, he called me and asked me if I would be his Dave, if I would be his model for Dave. Now, I am not Dave. I'm old, but I'm not that old. All right? I am not Dave, but what I am is I had the honor to be able to pretend to be Dave for Brian so he could make his illustrations. We get to talk about a historical character who they can relate to, a South Carolina story with national, resonance. And not only that, but they get a tangible representation through Together We Can Read. They get to take the book home. They get to share the story. It's not just, oh, some dude came to our school and taught about, no, they get to take the book home about Dave the Potter. They get to read it to their little brothers and their little sisters and their big brothers and big sisters and their mom and dad, and hopefully this groundswell starts where we learn not only about Dave, but, just the enjoyment they've had from learning Dave that sparks more literacy, more, gives them, not opportunity, but gives them more want.
Wait a minute, let's do this, wait a minute. I need a bigger ooh. Ooh, there we go, I like that. There we go. Here's the Dave pot. It's 4 gallons. Think of a gallon of milk. This would hold 4 gallons of milk. 4 gallons. It's made of what they call stoneware. It's clay that has been fired in a big old oven called a kiln, and it's called stoneware. So later you're going to get to touch it, and it feels like stone. Yes, ma'am? That's Dave's handwriting. I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. Yes, sir.
Is that real?
It's as real as it can be. This is real. Yes, ma'am.
Where's
His name is right here. The word Dave. What is on the pot is the date Dave made this pot. April 16th, 1862 was the date of this pot. Below it is the word Dave, and off on the side are 2 letters, L and M, for Lewis Miles. This was the man who owned Dave at the time. Yes, sir. It is. I'm going to tell you all about this little pot. Yes, ma'am.
What did you do?
We dug this up. I am from Aiken County. I was born in Aiken County. Right down the road from here. This was dug on an area called the Savannah River Site. It's a big facility down in Aiken, Barnwell, and Allendale County, owned by the federal government. And this is where this was dug up at. But I was born in Aiken. Aiken was once part of the area where Dave lived, known as Edgefield. So I've tromped all around where Dave worked and lived all my life. So to be able to handle one of his pots is really an honor for me. Why the top is broken? The folks who had this pot used it for quite a while. At some point, the top broke off, but they kept using it. This may have looked like a butter churn. Has anyone seen a butter churn before? It's got the stick in it and they make the butter. This is probably what this pot looked like before the top broke off. But they kept using it. And then one day they dropped it and broke it. and they threw it in a trash pile. And that's where it stayed until 2006 when we found it. How he learned to read and write. It became a law in 1834 that you could not teach slaves to read and write. When was Dave born?
1808.
1801. So he was already 33 years old. So he was probably taught to learn how to read and write at a young age by a gentleman named Abner Landrum. Mr. Landrum probably taught Dave to learn to read and write because Mr. Landrum owned a newspaper in Edgefield. And he also taught Dave how to work at the kiln and make the pottery. So that's how Dave come to learn to read and write. And fortunately, he had several masters that said, hey, as you're making those pots, if you want to write on them, be our guest, write on them. So.
Often we talk about literacy, we talk about it often about how it's good for you. You know, like I said, a lot of times, you know, we talk about it like it's health food or something, you know, like it's going to be good for you, but it's not going to really taste that good when it's going down. When it's exactly the opposite. It's one of the best things in the world. You know, most people reading a good story, hearing a good story, you know, whether it's on film or on stage or in a book or on a CD, whatever, on the radio, we love it. And these kids are getting an opportunity to participate in really great literature that is really close to them. They got a chance to meet Brian Collier, the author. Mr. George Wingard came through today, and the archaeologist, and talked about Dave's actual work. So it's just cool. I think it's a great experience for all involved.